Welcome everyone to today's class. In today's class, we will be taking a look at importing different file types into After Effects and working with them. We'll be taking a look at how they behave, how they function inside After Effects, how to import them, and some of the best practices in that whole process of importing them and also working with them in After Effects. So first off, I have my After Effects open. There's nothing I've imported yet. However, before now, I've gone and arranged my files. Like, let's say this is a root folder. This is the overall folder that's importing file types in After Effects, right? So this would be named after maybe the particular project that maybe it's church that gave you the project to do, or is IBM that gave you the project to do, right? So this will be named IBM blah 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 underscore whatever what they want you to do, right? Then when you come in here, you have the different folder. Remember our class on file organization. So I've done these are just like the basic based on this particular project at hand now. These are just the files I'll be working with. So first off, I have AE, but now there's nothing here. There's nothing because I haven't started. I haven't saved the project because the project here now is actually can see here is untitled, so it's not saved yet. However, once I start, I will quickly save it, right? So this is empty. So in here, I have Illustrator, some Illustrator files, both the EPS. I put both EPS and Illustrator. I just put them inside one folder, the AI file. Because what happens is that many times, okay, even when I have my EPS file, right, by default, when they come by default as EPS, I go to what's it called? I go to Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and break them down to like different layers. And so when I'm now saving them, I save them as Illustrator file and not just. But this is just here for demonstration sake. So you can see this. Yes, you can see this TCN logo, right? Originally, it came out as the person that sent it as EPS file, right? But I've now broken it down, so you can see it's just one this thing here. But later, is this one I broke down? Yeah, this is the separated one. But you can see here now I've separated all the elements so that it can allow me to animate them differently. But you can see there are just too many. So this is an example of where I said everything is converted to path. For instance, the major difference between um, EPS and AI file, that's Adobe Illustrator, is that the text, right, in EPS files, even when you finally convert them to Illustrator file, they remain as path. You can see this thing, like I can't, this that the Covenant Nation here now, I can't edit it any longer. I can't because why? It has been converted to. If I take my listening, I can't edit it any longer because it has been converted from text layer to path. And all these different layer you are seeing, all these shapes here, they've been converted. They are no longer the normal shapes again. They are all path. So that's that for the AI. Then inside here, I have audio. That's both the WAV. I think I should make this large. Both these are both of the same. They are of the same file, but of different codec, of different formats. This one is in WAV, while this one is in MP3. Then down here, I have my documents. So yes, and all these files I have here, to a large extent, okay, how this thing will turn out, how this whole project will turn out, this whole project will turn out is dependent on the scripts that I have, right? So in the scripts, I've just broken that's one, two, three, four concept, Abby. Yeah, I've just broken into that. Being outstanding takes proper strategy, focus, learning, and relearning. So everything I'll be doing, demonstrating here will just be centered around this. and that will also inform the file type that I'll be looking out for. Like what I have in mind is just images and text, and that's it. But I'll be going. So these are the images in mind now to to drive those concepts home. These are just the images here that I've sourced, right? That I've sourced. Then I have PSD. All this PSD based on my story, right? I don't really need all this PSD and the Illustrator. However, it's just for demonstration sake, so that for you people to see, okay, let's say in future, whenever you are working with Illustrator file, or no, definitely in this project we work with Illustrator file, but for the PSD, like we wouldn't work. But in the future, when you have PSD files, how does it behave, right? Especially this frustrated UX, we'll be bringing that into, we'll be importing that into After Effects. So let's go back to After Effects. So here, so the first thing I need to do is to hit my Control Shift S. Control Shift S is a shortcut for save as. Or I think even now, as it's not even saved, so if I even press Control S, yes, it will bring out the box to save, as in to give me the path to save it. Oh, it didn't bring that up. Okay, Control Shift S now. That's Control Shift S to save it. Remember the path where I have my AI. Okay, let me go back and collect. So remember the part where, okay, this is my AI, right? It's empty, right? So I can come here now. For me, this one works faster. So I just Control C the path. I come back here. This is the illustrate. This is the After Effects dialog box. I come here, the File Explorer. So I come back here. I do my Control V and enter. So it takes me straight to this. So I say importing. So my project now is importing files in AE. So I've saved now. So then the next thing now is either I create a folder first of all. Remember, the organization is key before you start importing things. Like make sure they are inside the folder here. So it's that, you know, okay, let's create a folder first of all. So to create a folder, you click this. There's a folder icon here. It says create a new folder. There's a folder icon here. Click there. So after hitting your create a new folder and it has deselected, the way to rename a folder or anything, the way to rename anything in After Effects is that you hit the enter button. The enter, that's the return key, the return. So you hit it, then you type. Then here I want, okay, let's say images. Right, I hit on another one. See, I've made a mistake, right? It wasn't. I wasn't meant to be inside. It's created this a subfolder because I had this images selected right before hitting it, so it made a subfolder. But that's not what I want. Rather, I want it to be outside. So what I do, I drag it like I drag it outside, as if I'm placing inside this bin here, inside this panel here. So yes, yeah. Then once I drag it out, I can press the enter key, the enter key, that's the return key. I say AI, that's Illustrator. So I just keep renaming them. So I just keep renaming them like that. So I think I'll fast forward the video to when I finish naming all of those. Now I have my folders created. That's from Illustrator, audio to images, PSD, and videos created now. The next thing now is for me to start importing them into these folders created. And there are various ways. I think there are three major ways to do that. Is either I double click here. Now let's double click. I double clicked on this panel here. So it brings out the file explorer. Then I can now select, okay, for instance, now I select these two files. These Pastor Poju, I import. Now you see it brought them just, is that it? Yeah. It put them and it just put them it put them inside, it just placed them inside this project panel here and not into any of the sub folder. So I now need to be the one to do that and drag inside the subfolder into the video. However, like for instance, when I want to import this import a PSD file right into this PSD, a way to make sure that it comes inside this PSD folder is that as it's selected, okay, I can go in, okay. As I have it selected, I just press Ctrl I, right? As I have it selected, I press Ctrl I to import. Then I go and look for my PSDs. Oh, this it wasn't I wasn't meant to be here. Okay. I go look for my PSD, frustrated UX. Yeah, let's pay attention to this. Yeah, because this is also the system that Illustrator also uses. Even though, as I said, right throughout this course, throughout this training, we don't delve into PSD. We'll just focus on Illustrator. That's Photoshop, but it uses like a similar, just though slightly different, uses a similar importing module. So here I have composition. There are options, different options. If I select this footage, if I select footage, right, it won't give me the option of it will just merge everything as single layer. That's what the footage it put everything as single layer. Why? Because if I come here, you will see that this is the folder now. This is the file now. In this is Photoshop. In Photoshop, I'm just open Photoshop. You see that there are different layers. So all of this allows me to animate them differently. You understand? Have control over everything differently. But if I were to say footage, it will just bring everything as a single image. But that's not what I want. And if I say composition, it will only bring them as composition. But each bounding box. What do I mean by bounding box? If you come here, yes, I have this font selected, right? You see there's a box that is tiny that I can use to like easily move it and all of that, right? But if I tell it to just import as composition and not retain layer size, right? For each of these files, right, its bounding box wouldn't just be around this, like for this font, for instance, this font, it wouldn't just be around this phone alone. It will take cognizant of the composition, which is here now is actually 1920 by 1080, right? And that is not what I want. It's kind of a hassle. That kind of creates a hassle each time you want to animate your elements. So the best option here is to choose composition, retain layer size, and make sure this editable layer size this thing is selected. And I say okay. Yes, if you look here, observe how it's the file is behaving. You see that it created a composition of its own, as there's a comp, or like by default it created a comp, and this is feeding off from here. You will see everything is inside this folder, right? And this folder is actually called artboard, since it's Photoshop CC14 or thereabout. They started introducing artboard as different from canvas. That but that's like by the way. But this is just what you need to know. It's feeding off from this information here. That's what it's used to create this composition. So once you enter it, you see there's another composition again inside. So this is how, and all of this is because I have my background. The size of my background is very very large, larger than the, it's larger than the canvas size. The canvas size is actually 1920 by 1080. So that's why it's being this long, as different from the 1920 by 1080, which is from here down here. So this is how, in a nutshell, this is how Photoshop behaves. Photoshop file behave. And I've not created my. Let me create. I've not created my main comp where everything will be sitting. That's where I'll be telling the story from. So I press Control N. Is that I press Control N or I hit this create a new composition and call it. Okay, let's call it yeah, importing files. Importing files, right? And see, uh, the the size is 1920 by 1080, and yes, 24 frame per second. And this the duration is just crazy. This is like 1 hour. Please, that I don't need that. I don't need. I think 10 seconds is okay, or let's say 15 seconds. Yeah, I think 15 seconds is okay. So let me zero out all of this. So that's 15 seconds, 6 frame. So I say okay. So this is I like to place my main comp, like the major comp in this at the beginning at the left hand side. Then if any other subsequent comp I'm working on, it can now start to fall at the right hand side, just going at the right hand side. But my major one should be the first in my left. So since I've created it, I now need to okay, I've created it, but I need to create a folder for it and call it underscore main. I put that underscore so that it will be at the top. So I have underscore main. The underscore makes it to be at the top. Then I also create another folder called underscore minor. Then yes, it just stays, yes, it just under the main. So yeah, so we've imported PSD files and you've seen how to do that. So let's import the Illustrator file. So I have it selected and I hit my, okay, let me show you another way to import, right? Is to also do drag and drop. So, so we've looked at double clicking here, right? This panel to import, double click on this panel to import, or you have your this thing selected, or you may not necessarily once you are in this project, right? Once you are on this project panel, if you press Control I, it imports. But if you want it specifically to import in a specific to a specific folder that you've created, you once you have the folder selected and press Control I. So that's what we've done so far. So I want to drag and drop this time around. So I come to my file explorer, my AI. So let me use this our search engine. So I bring it in here, the one we worked on the last time. So I'm dragging it into this. So you can see we also it's giving us a similar option that the Photoshop give us. So we have the option in import kind either as footage or composition. If I choose footage, it will import it as a single image, but that's not what I want. Many times that's not what I want. Sometimes it can be what you want, but that's not what I want here. However, I'm not even working with them here yet, but many times it's best to choose composition. Then once you choose composition, it's a layer size. If not, you see each items, right? Each footage or each item, the size will not be the document size, which wouldn't be nice. So you choose layer size and say okay. Once you say okay, you can see a it also created a composition for it, so called search engine. And once you come here, so you see how the file behaves, see all the files here. So you can see even this was formerly an image before, right? But now it's reading it as an Illustrator file. However, let me quickly say something. With a true Illustrator file, right? If a file is a true Illustrator file, like what I'm saying here, okay, let me turn this to blue, right? You can see that this is originally not an Illustrator file, rather it is an image that they've already exported. Though it was created probably in Illustrator, but it was exported as PNG, right? The major difference between them is that even I have let's say for instance, let me select her leg. Let me just select her leg, right? This is a leg. Where is it? P. Okay. This is a leg here. Let me change the color. To change the color, you click so that you can easily identify, differentiate it from others. I made it to purple. So one good thing with Illustrator file is that you can convert an Illustrator file to shape to a native After Effects shape layer. So how to do that? You right click on the particular layer. You know what? Let me call it leg. Let me just rename it. So to rename, right? Remember, I press enter and say leg. So to rename it, I press my I press the I left click, yes, I left clicked on it to bring out this option. I go to create, yes, I go to create them, create shapes from vector layers. Mm, from vector layer. So I click on that. So it created a shape from it. However, there is something that is wrong because if I once I enter, so it created that and shy this one, it made this one invisible. It made this invisible. So, but there's something happening. If I select, you can see there's a dialogue. The dialogue box is just big, like it's taking cognizance of the whole. Whereas what I just want to select is this leg now. Now it's not selecting it. So the way to fix that is that I come here, I click, I go to the content, I click here, I click this dialog box here, the arrow there to bring out the option. I click on another there again. So you can see everything is grouped here. So I click. So I start to the way I do many that I don't know which one is which, but I just have to start clicking to check which one is. So you can see once I click this, you see this was selected. You can see it was specifically selected. Though everything is selected, but it's specifically selected out. So you can see that this part is the leg itself, the part for the leg. But this group, I think, is for this whole one here, which I don't really want. Let me share it and see. Okay, you can see it has disappeared. So all I do now is delete it. It's not needful. So yes, and after that I don't really need this merge parts also. I delete it. So right now I have just my leg alone. So for instance, what this allows me to do is that, for instance, it can be a time where I would want to, I would need to, yes, use animate using the path, but um that's not our major focus here. Later we'll look into that. Yeah. So yes, once I'm on the G, once you press G or use pen to, it allows you to start natively manipulate it as a part, as if I'm actually drawing in Illustrator. But let me do Control Z on that. That's not our focus here. But this is just to give you an insight of how all of these behave, right? So I'm going back to, okay. I've not brought anything inside my major comp, so I'm just importing everything and showing how every files behave. So the next thing now is the images, right? So I can come here. I think this is the importing style that I like the most, is actually dragging and dropping. So I can bring all of these or Control A, take them inside here. And mind you, all these pictures were driven by the selection of all these pictures are based on what I have in my script. That is, my script dictated all the asset I'm working with. Being outstanding takes proper strategy, takes focus, learning and relearning. So those are the images for me to use for all of this. So this is how images behave. And all of these are what's it called? Are JPEG. So a JPEG. Let me look for the, what's it called? The PNG. So I will see how PNG looks. This is a PNG. So I'm bringing that in now. So you can see they are like, they are just, there's no, nothing much different between, or both of them. There's nothing much different between both of them. So this is how to import the, this is how images like both PNG and let me drop this here. See, this is how they behave. And V, press V to bring out my selection tool. So this is how it behaves, and this is how JPEG also behave. So I can scale this up to fit my composition. So then I go to audio. Yeah, I also drag and drop. So the WAV and the WAV and the MP3, they are essentially the same, except for, see, this is underscore happy times dot WAV. This is dot MP3. They're essentially the same, except for, as I said earlier on, one preserves quality more than the other one. But many times I tend to just work with MP3. Actually, I just tend to work with MP3. But there are some, like some senior colleague who advocates against working with MP3. But for me, um, I tend to want to save size, and I don't want my work at the end of the day, my composition to be like too large. So this is how to import different file types into After Effects, and we've taken a look at how they behave once we import them, some of the practices to use to make sure you import them properly. Moving on from here now, we go into creation of montage, creation of that's working with these file types now, so that you get a better feel of how they also behave in terms of animating them, how to animate each of them, their properties to tell a story.